welcome back to the channel. So I just have a little chat about what to do when you take your car into the garage, how you can save yourself from getting ripped off, and whether there's things you can do basically to ensure you get a good job done. So most garages are very honest and reliable, but there's just the odd one or two out there that aren't, and they give everybody a bad name, and we try our best to combat that and make sure people get a good experience. But there are the one or two garages that just really give the garage trade a bad name. So when you first take your car to the garage, you've booked it in, first thing in the morning you're dropping it off. Say to the garage, when you pick it up that night, you want to see the parts that they've changed, and you don't have to take them away with you, just make sure that you want to see them, and they can dispose of them afterwards. That way you make sure that what they're telling you has been changed, and if they ring up, sometimes you get a car in, booked in for a service, and while you're servicing it, you're checking the brakes, obviously, and you realise it wants a set of brake pads. So if they ring you up mid-morning and say, oh, by the way, your car needs a set of brake pads, it's quite urgent, then again, say, that's fine. Can you explain why it wants this part that you're telling me it wants? And can you tell me, or can you keep the parts so I can see them when I come down and pick the car up? That way you, again, make sure that the garage isn't ripping you off. And whatever part they tell you it needs, the same policy, just you want to see the parts afterwards, and you want to know why it's failed or it's worn out, whatever, and you want an explanation on why they felt they needed to change it. The other thing to do is ask, well, how long's left? So if they're saying, oh, your brake pads are worn out, just say, well, how long's left on them? How much meat's left on them? Will they last a little bit longer? That gives you a chance to go and get a second opinion if you don't trust the garage. You might have been taking your car there for years and you have absolute trust in them, and that's great. If you get a relationship with your garage where you trust them, that's always best. And but if it's a new garage to you, well, take it somewhere and get a second opinion. You just, if they say it wants a set of brake pads, you can go to most garages, pull up outside and say, can you just check my brake pads for me? I've been told they need doing. Can you give me a second opinion? And with most alloy wheels especially, you can see through the wheel and you can see that, oh yeah, it does need them or it doesn't need them. And most garages would do that for you free of charge. So you get that second opinion, and if it is that they do need doing, well, get a quote while you're there and compare it to the quote you've been given from the first garage. And again, that sort of gives you is the garage a good garage that you took it to in the first place? If it is, you can book it back in with them. You don't have to take it or let the second garage do it. There might be reasons why you want to, like the price is better or whatever, but again, you have to make sure when you're getting jobs done, you're comparing like for like. So timing belt is a typical one. So a garage that is a bit fly-by-night, they might give you a quote that just includes changing the belt, and you don't really want to do that. You want a timing belt kit, so then you get all the idler pulleys, you get the tensioner, and you want to know if the water pump's driven by the belt, are they going to change the water pump, antifreeze, etc. Because the quote between doing all that and just changing the belt is going to be massively different. So you might think, oh, I've asked them to change timing belt, and they're a quarter of the price of another garage. But that's because they're only doing a quarter of the work. And if you think, a lot of timing belts, they do 100,000 miles between changes. all those idlers and tensioners and water pump, they've all done 100,000 miles too. And if you change the belt, you're expecting them to do another 100,000 before they fail. And should they fail, they would wreck the belt, and so they'd destroy the belt and you're into a completely destroyed engine. So yeah, you want to make sure you get all those items done with it, and that way you get that 100,000 extra, so the car will be up to about 200,000 miles. And it's never going to do that on those original parts. So make sure you get like-for-like quotes. Servicing especially is one of those areas where a like-for-like quote is essential, because some garages will say there's a full service and that's everything. You expect full service to be everything. Then other garages, if you start talking pollen filters and fuel filters and things like that, oh, that's a major service. So the full service is literally oil filter and air filter, and that's not a full service in anybody's book, but that's what they'll do. And if you complain that you haven't had all the other bits that should be in a full service, they'll just say, well, that's a major service you should have asked for. But you can pretty much guarantee the price is extortionate for what you've had. So make sure you get like for like. So if a garage is quoting you a full service, ask them what that includes, and then when you ring the next garage and ask for a full service, when you're ringing around for quotes, make sure that the parts match the list. And if there's more on the list, you think, well, the first garage actually isn't doing the full job, then are they? If there's less parts on the list, you think, well, it's no wonder you can do it cheaper. Or if it's the same price, then that's a rip-off. So yeah, you can cover yourself that way on the quote that you get, making sure that you ask them what parts it includes. So if you're having a timing belt, what parts does that include? If you're having a service, what parts does that include? And make sure the quotes you get from different garages are like for like, and that way you'll be getting a good deal every time. You won't be getting ripped off. That's my advice, and there's other things you can do to make sure that you get good service, but those are the basics. Those are absolutely basics. Make sure you ask to see the parts at the end of the day, and make sure you get like-for-like quotes, and you won't go too far wrong then, and you'll soon work out which are the honest garages and which are the ones that are trying to rip you off. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time on Bennett Motors.